Content marketing comes in many different forms. As a content creator, you have plenty of options such as blogs, social media, visuals, sharing your videos, and now podcasting too. The constant rise in podcasting trend suggests that it is here to stay. What are the possible benefits to begin your own podcast? How do you monetize podcast? What are the best business models for podcasting? To answer all such questions, we have Agnes with us, who is joining us from Austria. She is by passion and profession both is a podcaster and a content creator. So let's talk to Agnes and know more about podcasting. Hi Agnes. Hi Agnes, we welcome you on our show and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It would be great to start this conversation with a brief introduction of yours.
So for me, why I got into podcasting is quite a funny story. So I was working as a recruiter in the past for a company where I was really micromanaged. I didn't really have a lot of creativity and I was really not happy with that job. So I went back to university, did a master and ended up doing research into entrepreneurship. So I was researching how the fear of failure influenced entrepreneurs. And that meant for me that I had to go out there and find these types of entrepreneurs here in Amsterdam that would be willing to give me an interview for research purposes. And those types of interviews really completely changed my perspective because I heard CEOs for the first time talking about their fears and all of the problems that they had and just like everything that was going wrong with their business. And it was just really empowering for me because I never heard of that. Because mainly for me, when I look at the media, I was mainly seeing the positive side and everything was going great and getting more this feeling of success overnight. But I haven't heard of really the struggle and like all of the fears behind it and those types of things. And that changed my perspective of, hey, maybe I can also do more than I thought because I wasn't aware that these types of people were experiencing this on a daily basis. And that kind of really empowered me to start a podcast about this topic because I wanted to bring it out into the world and I wanted to show other people that they're also maybe capable of doing more than they thought. And I think it's also very empowering to have these types of conversations where we can really be honest about also the things that are going wrong because let's be honest, everyone has also bad days. So why can't we also talk about them more openly? And since then, it's been a very interesting ride. And I really enjoyed doing it. So there were so many challenges for me in the beginning. Also putting yourself out there, being visible, posting content on a regular basis. So for me, it really did something internally. But it's also amazing to see that now those types of feelings are kind of gone. So it's amazing to see also your own personal growth. And there are just like so many things that come with it. So, for example, for me, a really big insight is that everyone is just human because I talk to a lot of very successful CEOs and entrepreneurs, just overall millionaires, where you have the feeling that everything is going great for these people and they don't have these types of insecurities. But then when I talk to them, I find out that they do. And then I just also realize, hey, it doesn't matter what age you are or gender or from what culture you are, that we're all just human. And that's a really cool insight to have.
My first question is, what are the possible benefits that one can gain by becoming a podcaster?
In general, there are many benefits to podcasting. So especially a huge one is networking. So let's say, for example, that you have a certain problem in your business or in your personal life and you're really looking for a solution and you can't find it. If you have a podcast, you can pretty much get in touch with anyone in the world and just ask them for advice on their podcast to your problem. and they will be, in most cases, willing to speak to you because, again, a lot of people like the publicity out of the podcast, which means that you can pretty much get free business advice. And that's a really cool thing. Besides that, there are many business collaborations that develop out of these podcast conversations because you get to trust the person. So that's really great as well. Another really great benefit is that if you put out content on a regular basis, which means that you publish your podcast and you create clips and pictures out of your podcast content and you post it on your social media pages, you will be definitely more present in your network, and then also potential prospects will have you top of mind, which is a huge thing. And as well, if you are present in your own network on a regular basis via content, people will think about you more often, and if there is an opportunity, they will also be more likely to get in touch with you. So that's another great way to be visible in your own network, and you also establish quite some authority and trust with the people if they see you interviewing specialists in the niche where you're at. So that's just another great point. I think also another benefit is that you really learn to listen. You really learn to trust yourself more, be in the conversation, go a little bit more with the flow, and you get to read the body language of someone else. And overall, your people skills are developing so much more through doing a podcast.
So Agnes, how do we create a business model for a podcast?
So when it comes to making a business model out of your podcast, there are many ways you can take. So one of them would be affiliate marketing. So let's say, for example, that you have a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening to your podcast. Then you can think about what kind of products are interesting for those types of entrepreneurs. So you can check out, for example, Wix.com, that's a website builder, which means that every entrepreneur who starts will make their website. So if you recommend Wix, then you can subscribe to their affiliate program and put the link in your show notes, and then listeners will see that. And the thing about podcasting is that a lot of listeners also really trust you. You really get to establish a trust relationship. And according to statistics, there is quite a percentage that buys these types of affiliate products that you recommend as a host. But of course, that also takes time, so you really have to build it up a little bit. Besides that, you can also go for sponsorships. So let's say also, for example, if you're starting out with your podcast and you want to get a sponsor on early on. So then you're just going to have to be a little bit creative and think about what kind of companies might benefit from your audience. So what you can do is you can think about what kind of company wants to expand to your country and needs visibility, which is of course dependent on a little bit of research and information that you should have. But then you can approach this company, call them and email them and say, hey, I have this podcast. It's focused on health and wellness, and I see that your company currently is expanding to my country, and we can work something out if you want to get a little bit more promotion. And then you can charge a fee for that. Besides that, another method is, of course, that you are selling some type of product or service and you're using the podcast as a lead magnet. So you can also just put your own ads in the podcast and promote yourself and promote your own services. Another way, of course, is that you create a podcast around your own services or products. So, for example, if you are selling coaching, then you can have a podcast around coaching and try to get clients on and establish a relationship with them while you're interviewing them and provide them value. And there is, of course, a chance that then later on they will, book you as a coach and you will get a client. And what you can do is then as well just put ads in the podcast and promote yourself or your service or product. So that can work out also extremely well. Another method is as well that you can help out people with visibility. So, because if you're recording a podcast and you're publishing it, basically you're giving someone visibility in your own network, which means that you can also, if you become better at it, help and coach people in storytelling. You can book them on podcasts. That's also possible. Then there are also certain sites that match you automatically with sponsors. So, for example, if you take a podcast host Anchor in the US, they automatically match you with possible sponsors, which is really cool. And there are also certain sites for it, like Podcorn, that you can check out for possible sponsors. What you can also do is, if you become better at podcasting and the whole management around it, is you can offer to manage podcasts for other people, which means you can go into audio editing and content creation and offer package deals for companies or individuals that just don't want to do it themselves. And you can also create a podcast for another company. So that can also work out. So there are in general many ways. I think it's just really important to be creative with that.
Agnes, what is the right time to monetize a podcast, or how long one should wait to create a business model around a podcast?
Yeah, so in general, I think you can already start monetizing from the beginning if you have a way. Because in my opinion, if you are creating value for someone and you are an interesting person to listen to, or you have a great guest speaker, then it doesn't matter if you put an ad in. Mainly people will partly then skip it, or some will still listen to it. But I don't think that it really matters if you monetize from day one or from, let's say, day 200. Because again, if you are creating value and like the listeners really like you, then they will just stick with you. And of course, I mean, it shouldn't be 5 minutes of ads in there. That gets kind of annoying. But besides that, I think you should be fine.
I'm sure after watching this interview, many people will seriously start thinking about getting into podcasting. Thank you so much for taking time to share your knowledge with us and giving us insight. Thank you guys for watching.